Support for Radio Friends comes from Columbia Healthy Smiles, the dental office of husband and wife team Dr. Batson and Dr. Abe, offering comprehensive and customized care to patients of all ages. Learn more by calling 573-721-9039 or online at www.columbiahealthysmiles.com. Good morning and welcome to Radio Friends on April the 5th. Good to have you with us. This is Holy Week for many people, almost every religion.
A number of faith traditions have something important that would be sacred or holy this week.
And that voice that you hear and the face you see is Larry Brown. Good to have you here, Larry Brown, our singer, storyteller, songwriter, all-around good guy.
Well, thanks.
Thank you.
I thought because of the sacredness of this week, I'd find a story that maybe had a theme of self-giving and compassion.
Okay. So it's a story, even though you brought a guitar along.
Oh, you gave it away.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Paul.
Okay. Well, pretend I didn't see it. Here is Larry Brown with a... Do I know the name of the story?
I will tell you.
Okay.
High-level conference.
Here is Larry Brown with a high-level conference story.
Well, when I was a youth in the early 60s, I was fascinated with folk music and Pete Seeger and Joan Baez and Bob Dylan and Chad Mitchell Trio, and those folks were all, I wanted to be a folk musician, so I need to play the guitar. And the small town, Midwestern town, southwest Nebraska, there wasn't many guitars around at that time, but I bought a guitar, an old guitar for $6 from this kind of a cowboy that was around town. And well, it was pretty bad shape. And my mother said, well, she knew an old guy that maybe could tell me whether it was worth it and so on. And I took it over there and he said, well, yeah, I think so. Look, we need to find some strings. Went down to the drugstore and they fished around in the drawers and came up with a set of strings. I took it to Mr. Montoni, and he helped me put the strings on, showed me how to tune it. And one of the tuning pegs was broken. We had to use a pair of pliers to do it, but that was my first guitar, and that's what I learned to play on. And actually used it for several years. Got to college, was singing in coffee houses and so on, and I needed a better guitar. So I saved my money and bought a $50 new guitar, a Harmony, from the Sears Roebuck store. And put that first guitar away. Well, years went on, and into the 1970s then, I acquired the Gibson J40 that I have today, that I've used on this show many times. And I gave away the old Harmony guitar, but kept that first one. Well, for a year or so, I worked in a inner city project in Indianapolis, so doing social service, and we had apartments in this big old house and had some common space. And we had arson in that building one day. And when no one was there, a friend of mine who also worked with us had come back while the fire department was putting out the fire. And the fire had not done a lot of damage, but water was doing damage. And the fireman said, anything in there really valuable? And my friend thought, well, Larry Brown's got a guitar. And he sent the fireman back in to get the guitar, which was the Gibson. Saved that guitar, the valuable guitar, but my friend didn't know about the old guitar that was in the closet. And when I got it, it was just ruined. It was just a pile of wet splinters, and had to just throw it away. Move a little bit further forward. I came to Columbia and was pastoring at Olivet Church, and there was a man named Martin Beheimer who had become a wise elder to me, and he served as an elder in the congregation. And he would always make sure that I was current on what was happening in the community of particular people, and he would always come by to have what he called a high-level conference. He would bring a thermos of coffee, and we would chat about the concerns of the day or the congregation or the community. Sometimes he would show up early in the morning at the parsonage, and sometimes he would show up at the church office, or sometimes we'd go out somewhere for coffee. I went to a ball game one time, sat out in the parking lot in his pickup and had a coffee out of the thermos, had a high-level conference. Well, one day he showed up at the office and said, Larry, we got to have a high-level conference. You come into the fellowship hall, I'll be right back. I went out there, sat down. He came in with a gunny sack. And what's this? He opened up the gunny sack and pulled out this old guitar. And he said, you know, you told the story the other day about how you lost your first guitar. And he says, I remembered this old guitar was hanging in a farmhouse of our family up in Macon County. And it sounded like this one. And nobody else wanted it, so I brought it to give to you. And he pulled out that gunny sack and brought out this guitar. And it's an old guitar. I have no idea value, but on the back of it, this gorgeous, gorgeous inlay, very intricate, and an ebony fretboard and some pearl, mother of pearl inlay. Just a classic old guitar. And I will just remember that to this day about that. Well, Martin died a few years later, and he was in his last days of life. And I went to see him in the hospital, and his voice was so soft, and he kind of whispering, and I leaned over, and Martin said, we need to have a high-level conference. And I leaned over, and he said, would you sing at my funeral? Oh. I get, well, of course, and play a guitar. I said, of course. And I did. Well, this old guitar now has hung on the wall in my home ever since he gifted me. I just didn't want to touch it. It so brings me back to the memories of my first guitar. But equally important, the memory of his gift to me on that morning that we had that high-level conference.
That's neat. And that is a true story.
That is absolutely true.
That's a beautiful story, Larry. Yeah. It's amazing how certain things become more sentimental as time goes by.
It's sentimentality, yes, but it's also gratefulness of what friendships have meant. And, you know, this old guitar winds up being a symbol of that friendship.
Yeah. Did you ever put strings on that guitar?
No, I took it one time to a person who might restore it, and he says, well, there's a fragility about it. It's probably okay, but I sort of wanted it in the condition in which it was given. Yeah. and that's so I've left it that way. But again, it takes me back to the origins of my own guitar playing. So yes, it's nostalgia, but there's that deep gratitude for the folks that have been my mentors and friends and colleagues and fellow musicians. And radio show hosts through the years.
Oh, thank you, Larry. Well, we're out of time for today. I hope that each and every one of you will have a wonderful week. As we mentioned at the beginning, this is a holy week for many of the world's religions, which include?
Islam, Christianity, Judaism are all celebrating sacred events this week. Yes.
Yeah. Larry Brown, thank you so much for coming by. Our singer, songwriter, storyteller, and as I said at the beginning, just all around nice guy. We're proud to call you our friend.
Thanks for this high-level conference this morning.
All right, Larry. Thank you. And if there's something you would like to hear and see, I would love to hear from you. Just drop me an email. That's pepperp@missouri.edu. Have yourself a good day. Bye-bye.